Rappers, they're all so tough until you hear their real name.
Yeah, well, until you see them at a puffy party.
Oh,
Then they're not tough no more. I'm surprised that the rap game is still alive after, because the masculinity that the rappers are supposed to portray. Oh,
There's a lot of people, man, that's just, selling their soul and selling themselves short and distracted with the wrong things. So, it is what it is, man. This industry is a very evil industry.
It was hard for me being that young and being in the industry and not knowing where to turn. And
there was a time where I was sipping lean, I was popping pills, I was doing Molly, shrooms, everything. And it was just an escape for me. I was just young, like everybody in the industry and people in the world. I started valuing the wrong things in this business because there was things dangling in front of me. If I get this, I'll be happy. If I do this, I'll be happy.
Listen, the industry didn't just enter its Diddy era out of the blue. Since the beginning, major labels have been quietly turning young rappers into the most profitable sharecroppers in American business, locking them into 360 deals, trading publishing rights. Listen, the industry did not just step into its Diddy era out of nowhere. Since the very beginning, major labels have been quietly turning young rappers into some of the most profitable sharecroppers in American business, locking them into 360 deals, trading away publishing rights once they are no longer useful, and discarding them as soon as the numbers stop making sense. The playbook is simple. Find someone with nothing from the slums, lure them in with access, get them to sign a contract they do not fully understand, then use humiliation, bad deals, and manufactured scandals to drain them completely. That is not a theory. It is how this business has operated for decades. Tonight, Terrence Howard and Lil Flip are not just telling war stories. They are breaking down the system that has been intentionally breaking young rappers long before most people even knew what a 360 deal was. Before talking about the FOIs and rituals, one thing has to be clear. The entertainment industry was built on exploitation long before Terrence Howard ever spoke up. And the person who had the courage to expose it was Lil Flip. In the 90s, labels signed entire rap rosters into deals that gave away masters, publishing, and likeness rights for almost nothing. The names kept changing, but the contracts stayed the same. And it was always the news.
There's a lot of people, man, that's just, selling their soul and selling themselves short and distracted with the wrong things. So, it is what it is, man. This industry is a very evil industry. You know what I mean? Like it's very evil, man. So you got to really surround yourself with people that think like you or bigger than you. So it's a nice amount of, I ain't gonna even say nice. It's a lot of rappers that sold their soul and, they let money dictate everything they do. They value money more than they value humans. I ain't participating in no bull. If it ain't righteous, I don't want to be a part of it, man. I'm not gonna snake my people and I ain't gonna snake my people and I can't sell my people out and I ain't gonna sell myself out. Fame ain't that important, man, for me to just do anything. It's cool. I'm used to the attention.
Now, this is not some has-been or wannabe speaking. He is a veteran with a 25-year spotless record behind him. No one understands the industry better than he does, and now he is finally letting people in on the secret. There are not just a few bad apples. The entire system is rotten to its core. It is built to value profit over people and to reward those who are desperate enough to do anything just to please the gatekeepers. This is where Terrence comes in, because he understands exactly what happens after you sign the contract. Surprisingly, the first test for rappers is not a courtroom battle, it is a conversation and simply being allowed into those so-called sacred meetings. Howard has been inside those rooms, and according to him, the price of staying there has nothing to do with how well you rap.
Rappers, they're all so tough until you hear their real name.
yeah, well, until you see them at a puffy party.
Oh,
Then they're not tough no more. I'm surprised that the rap game is still alive after, because the masculinity that the rappers are supposed to portray. Oh.
Now, you might misunderstand and think he is only talking about image, or the way young rappers act overly tough and wild in ways that seem beyond what is humanly possible. But if you know anything about Terrence, you understand that there is more to his interview than just surface-level information. Fans believe he is pointing towards something darker, suggesting that a lot of that performance is hiding what really happens when the cameras are off. Once they sense desperation in you, you are no longer in control. According to Street Talk, there is a point where people agree to things they once thought they could refuse. Terrence has a name for it, breaking the buck. It may sound extreme at first, but the idea is that the music industry ultimately demands complete control and obedience.
With all the man-on-man action that I'm learning about, I mean, like with the Puffy parties, like the last thing I ever thought that went on there was gay stuff. Not that gay stuff
Yeah,
was
I didn't.
wrong, it's wonderful. I just did not think that's what Puffy was doing.
Yeah, well, I didn't think it either. And even when my assistant said that stuff, I still was like joking it off. And it wasn't until later on that I heard other things from people that worked from him. You know, you remember that back in the times of slavery, they had a thing called breaking the buck. That people in the industry are still making young rappers who have fought the worst of circumstances, being disenfranchised, being discounted, and then they finally like, I'm gonna put it into the music. I'm gonna do it in the music, and I'm gonna, and get myself together. And they go and see someone, and they tell them, okay, yeah, you can have a deal.
That opportunity comes with conditions, and those conditions often involve doing something he would never want to admit out loud. Something that has to be filmed, remembered, and never spoken about directly, but still understood as leverage. This is the same cycle repeating again and again, and once you start recognizing it, the breakdowns from new generations begin to look less like random outbursts and more like a form of warning. Before artists like Da Baby, and before all the cancellation headlines, there was a southern rapper who had the entire country spinning their shirts like helicopters. P.D. Pablo, with hits like Raise Up and Freak a Leak, gold records, and even a Grammy nomination. Then, almost overnight, he was gone. The official explanation pointed to legal trouble and poor decisions, but Terrence Howard suggests there was something else behind it. The moment P.D. Pablo stood his ground, the machine allegedly turned against him. He was accused of inappropriate touching at a bar, and rumors started spreading about him touching someone. Whispers of misconduct began circulating across the industry. There was no solid proof behind the allegations, but the damage was immediate.
Tell them, okay, yeah, you can have a deal. You know, perform on me, and you get your deal. That was what I heard while I was on Empire about some of the people in the business. And P.D. Pablo, you remember P.D. Pablo?
I know who that is.
P.D. Pablo, talented writer, singer. Him and Young Buck wrote a song called Ho His Own. And in that song, back in about 2011 or 29 or something, because he called out all of the homo taking place at those parties and those people, he was kicked out of the music business. No radio station would play his stuff. So you look for P.D. Pablo, he's not around anymore. But that song, Ho Its Own, they did
No,
not
I
care.
mean-
They went all in on it.
Terrence believed P.D. Pablo's real mistake was standing his ground and saying no. After that, his second album struggled to gain traction and his promotion slowly dried up. That is how the rapper who once put North Carolina on the map ended up being pushed out. On the surface, it looks like a simple career decline, but in Terrence's version of events, it was more like a warning shot. This is what happens when someone refuses to stay quiet. Terrence felt that P.D. Pablo did not just fade away, but was instead pushed aside, smeared, sidelined, and effectively blackballed after exposing how the game works. And if that sounds dramatic, the same pattern is said to have repeated with a rapper who came long after P.D.'s biggest hits, someone who went from being everywhere to nowhere in a single news cycle. In just a span of 3 years, Da Baby went from a superstar to almost invisible, with the industry suddenly going quiet around him as if he had disappeared. What triggered it was his Rolling Loud Miami 2021 performance, where a stage rant and controversial comments led to backlash and eventual cancellation. After that, festivals dropped him, brands cut ties, and media outlets demanded accountability. According to Da Baby, it felt like a switch had been flipped overnight.
Not picking up phone calls. I ain't no friendly anyway though. You know what I'm saying? So that ain't had no type of effect on me. Like I barely called. I ain't called. When I was on top. I ain't called before I got on top. Like I ain't really that type. I'm gonna eat what you type. I'm gonna eat what I regardless, so I know that's me. You know what I'm saying? Like that's how I get down. Like, you know, and that's kind of like that it eventually I adapted and that just became my approach.
You sound familiar, and that is exactly what happened to Petey Pablo. But the difference is that the system has been tuned for the streaming era now. To be fair, his comments were out of line, but he did apologize afterward. If Jada Pinkett can bounce back from multiple scandals, then why not him as well? It almost felt like he had already served his purpose. From the outside, it is often labeled as cancel culture, but Terrence was talking about something deeper. A systematic effort to push someone out once they are no longer useful. However, not every young artist is broken in the same way, because some are not just punished when they step out of line. They are conditioned from the very beginning and pushed into situations they do not even fully understand until the damage is already done. That is where the stories around Usher, Justin Bieber, and Diddy's party start to come in. Now, with Petey Pablo and DaBaby, the industry seemed to let them develop over time until they got bigger. Maybe because they were not seen as explosive global talents like Justin Bieber. According to Jag, that is exactly the point, because Justin entered the system right, as he blew up and was immediately treated like fresh exposure in a room full of hungry
Look at Usher,
vultures.
they don't see that. They're not seeing the victim. They're not seeing that boy that got rushed to the hospital. They're not seeing what the intentions was in his heart when he took Justin Bieber there.
Oh.
Let's be honest. He took Justin Bieber there. Diddy had been trying to get to Bieber for a minute. And his management was backing him off. But it wasn't until Usher took over management and had guardianship and gave temporary guardianship to the diddler for 48 hours. Think about that. He had already been to the hospital. That situation that Gene was talking about. And you still took Bieber there. But you got custody of him first. Diddy had already tried. They wouldn't let him. Actually, someone made reference to the fact that Diddy trying to get at Bieber the way he was trying to get at Bieber was looking a little predatory. And then Usher came in and discovered it and managed him and got custody of him and promised to look after him. And then he sent him to the diddler. Does that sound like a good guy?
It's horrible.
Does that sound like a good guy? Now that we know what Diddy's really like, what kind of asshole do you gotta be to take another boy, another talented boy, and put him in your place so it ain't gotta be you no more?
Pattern she is pointing out is the same system that she believes took down Petey Pablo and DaBaby. You might not know this, but Diddy had reportedly been trying to get close to Justin Bieber long before that 48-hour clip spread across the internet. Justin, according to this version of events, got caught up because someone he trusted with his career allegedly handed him over to Diddy in order to protect themselves. Usher understood exactly what that world looked like because he had experienced it himself as a teenager. And instead of breaking the cycle, he is also accused in these claims of passing Justin directly into the same environment. If there is any doubt, the narrative continues by pointing back to Usher's own words about his time around Diddy's so-called flavor camp.
I moved to New York City, and I lived with Sean Puffy Combs for a year.
That's the crazy thing. Now, that was L.A. Reid's idea, right? We're sending you over to something called Puffy Flavor Camp.
There you go.
To learn
Flavor Camp.
Yeah,
Flavor
that's
Camp.
what it was called. And you're going to go to Puff Daddy's. He's going
In the 90s, do you understand what that's like?
Puffy's place was like just filled with chicks and like nonstop, right?
No, not really. I
Come
mean,
on.
but hey, it was curious. I got a chance to see some things.
Yeah, but you were 13. What were you seeing?
I went there to see the lifestyle.
Right.
And I saw it. And it was, but I don't know if I could indulge and understand what I was even looking at. It was pretty wild.
So nobody tried to, some woman didn't come along.
I didn't say that.
Okay.
I didn't say that. What I did say is that there were very curious things taking place. And I didn't necessarily understand it.
Biggie Smalls was there.
Biggie Smalls was there. Lil Kim, Craig Mack.
All these people are hanging around.
Yeah, man. Faith Evans,
And your parents
Jodeci,
were
Mary J.
okay?
Blige. They didn't know nothing about this shit.
Oh.
I was having a good time. You know what I mean?
Does he have you doing any chores? Are you doing dishes at all? I mean, to keep you humble somewhat? Or are you just like, can you stay up till 4 a.m. with them and party?
I mean, I could. I actually stayed up longer than them.
And do you have money? What's going on?
I mean, I had like per diem.
Uh-huh.
I had like,
What
like
a
a living.
life.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
14 years old. You're a dad now. Would you ever send your kid to Puffy camp?
Hell no.
Now this admission gives us all the insight we need. That is the sound of a grown man that is still trying to make sense of the price he paid, and whatever did or did not happen behind closed doors, what we know is the outcome that played out in public. Justin has described it himself.
It was hard for me being that young and being in the industry and not knowing where to turn, and everyone, telling me they love me and, just turn their back on you in a second. So yeah, it's hard because I want her to know that, she can count on me. But at the end of the day, I'm never going to force myself to be in a relationship with her. It has to be natural, right? So I just kind of, let her do her thing. And if she ever needs me, I'm going to be here for her. But yeah, just protecting those moments because people take for granted encounters and yeah. So yeah. I just want to protect her, I don't want her to lose it. I don't want her to, go through anything I went through. I don't wish that upon anybody.
That kid who went from church videos to becoming a global product in just a few years. And with everything people now know or believe about the Epstein files and the Diddy saga, it is anyone's guess what that kid may have gone through at this point. Sadly, it feels like a never-ending cycle that keeps consuming young artists one after another. Jaden was not the only one whose sense of self got fractured by the industry, because there is a whole generation of young talent that never necessarily got destroyed by bad contracts or cancellation tours, but still ended up breaking down while trying to survive a world they were never really allowed to speak about. Jaden did not grow up fighting to get into the industry. He was born inside it. And before he could even understand what was happening, he was already being pushed to follow a script. The people around him could see that he was slowly losing pieces of his identity, one role at a time, before he even had the chance to figure out who he truly was.
Jaden Smith is gay. His first lover was Tyler, the Creator. We all know he got mad when Tyler, the Creator, cheated on him. He got out there, and then Will was like, "You're my son, bro. You can have your feelings, but you can't be out here like that." He stopped it, shut it down. Dig it? This is not for people to take lightly. If you're gonna be homosexual, be homosexual. You're gonna be a thug, my nigga. It's gonna take a lot more than Tupac.
You do not have to believe every word that comes out of Orlando's mouth, but it is worth remembering that we have seen time and again what the industry does to child actors. Jaden's life has been a roller coaster of rumors, scandals, and PR moments, but nobody truly knows what really happened at certain parties or how much of his so-called strange behavior is actually just a young person trying to survive in a world that does not allow him to speak freely. And there is only one person who has really had the courage to speak his truth, not in coded language, but in plain and simple words. D is not just an insider. He is someone who has walked into those meetings, heard the offers firsthand, and walked right back out with his dignity intact.
Depending on what part of the industry you're trying to get access to, there's gatekeepers. So if you're trying to get signed to a major label, there's gatekeepers. If you're trying to get on certain media platforms to get interviewed, there's gatekeepers. If you're trying to get on the mainstream radio, you heard me, urban radio, there's gatekeepers. Yes. On the totem pole of people with integrity and people with morals, values, and principles, these gatekeepers ain't nobody. But in this perverted, sick, twisted industry, these gatekeepers do hold access to certain levels, Bro, I've had gatekeepers in the music industry who have literally tried to hold a record deal behind their back and let me know, like, look, if you're a part of this homosexual act that I'm trying to take part in, you hear me? Yeah, come on, this door open real quick for you. Like, I got a song where I've talked about that before called The Devil's Playground. Like, this is real, dog. And the only way that type of stuff can work on you is if you let them have all the leverage to where you want what's behind that gate that bad. So that's a real thing. You also got people who, this a different type of gatekeeper. The gatekeepers who will say, hey, you making too much righteous noise right now. If you just tone that righteousness down a little bit, then we'll allow you into these doors. But you got to tone that down. You got to become a little more vanilla, you heard me? A little more lukewarm, a little more bland, and you'll fit in with us more. So that's the slick gatekeeping. It ain't telling you, it ain't telling you to all the way, bend over or open your mouth or something like that. It ain't that, but it's telling you, like, dim your light. And what ends up happening is you got so many people that's like, well, that's not that bad. They not asking me to do nothing super crazy. I just got to dim my light. That's the scariest kind right there. Because a lot of people will be like, wait, I just got to turn it from level 10 to level 5? Man, bet. I could do that, bro. I bet. Now I get accepted? Cool. Next thing you know, you got a whole industry, brother, that's lukewarm. Whole industry lukewarm. So then when somebody that's on fire come along, they looking at it like, whoa, you crazy. Hold on. You shining too bright. Hold on. Chill out, man. You doing the most. You messing up.
These are the same gatekeepers that were said to have come after Ice Cube when he released the contract with Black America. It is the same playbook, just different people being either kept in line or pushed out when they do not fit the system anymore. But the system does not only test individuals, it also manufactures entire careers to push whatever sells the best, even if what is being sold is harmful.
Industry plans exist, yes. The music industry will conspire to say, what this artist represents is something that we need more of in America. So if it's extreme ignorance, if it's watered down blackness, if it's whiteness that represents being able to be cool and be accepted by black people, whatever it is, we want more of that. So we will do everything in our power to make this person pop off and be a star, to push this agenda. Or we have a vested interest financially in seeing this artist make it. Because not only do we have this artist signed to us, but we manage this artist, and we know that this artist is going to create a whole generation of people just like them. Yeah, they definitely got industry plans. Yes, all of these black artists who ain't even old enough to understand the contract that they about to sign and who are being signed just because they had one thing that went viral, that they glorifying a bunch of just negativity, and all of a sudden they about to get paid millions of dollars. Those are industry plants. The industry knows the impact that those artists will have on the rest of their community. They know it. And they're just like, oh man, we need that person to make it for sure. But if you are representing something positive or something righteous or something intellectual or godly, you absolutely have to do way more work to make the industry say, all right, we're going to let them in. It's like, all right, we're going to let a J. Cole in. We're going to let a Kendrick Lamar in. But we got enough. We got enough of them. You know what I'm saying? We got enough of them. You realize that J. Cole and Kendrick Lamar are two of the richest rappers walking planet Earth today? Two of the most successful rappers? Why would the industry not want more J. Cole's and more Kendrick Lamar's?
Yeah, they don't even floss or anything, bro. You don't see them with jewelry, none of that.
Bro, J. Cole and Kendrick Lamar scare the industry, because if they let more of them in, you're going to have a whole generation of people coming up who are black, who are saying, I ain't even got to flaunt no jewelry, you heard me? I ain't even got to flaunt fancy cars, and I can be intellectual, I can be woke, I can be a man of God.
Or rap about it.
Or rap about that stuff. And if you got a whole generation of black people that's coming up, that's like, man, there wasn't one J. Cole and one Kendrick Lamar. There were a ton of them, and they were all huge. Now, keep in mind, a ton of people exist who are doing the same type of work that Cole and Kendrick are doing, and they're doing that work in their own way. I'm one of the people, and there's a bunch of people that are doing that. But for the mainstream music industry, Man, they don't want a bunch of that to exist, bro.
So basically, if someone is desperate enough, the system does not even need to rely on blackmail because they can simply turn them into a walking billboard instead. They pick a kid who comes from nothing and is willing to do almost anything to achieve success. And from there, you get what people call an industry plant. If you think it is not that deep, think again, because it is not just about controlling one artist, it is about shaping what millions of young listeners start to see as normal. And if you are wondering why some of the calm,
These dudes
most respected
ain't never been to jail. You ain't got to worry about, oh, we might sign him and he might go to jail and we can't even put no music out. These dudes ain't never been in no shootouts or nothing like that. Why would the industry not want more of that? Think about it. Think about it.
You right, man. That's your real talk, yo.
Come on, man. You mean to tell me you not a headache and you still gonna make buku bread for us and for yourself and just like everything is all good? Like people entertained by you, they love you, da-da-da. You mean to tell me they wouldn't be like, man, we need more of that. But come on, bro. Come on, bro. Every year they're like, yo, who is the new street rapper that need to get signed and get pushed out there? Not in one city, but in every major city. Every year, it's like, man, who is the new street rapper that we could sign that's going to impact the masses in their city, and we going to blow them up, and they young, so they don't realize that they're being used right now.
Because people who think for themselves, make their own decisions, and have their own purpose are harder to control in an industry that often benefits from self-destruction. When you put it all together, the pattern does not feel complicated anymore. It is an industry built on unfair contracts and power imbalances, with gatekeepers who test what you will do when nobody is watching, artists who get smeared, silenced, or slowly broken down when they refuse to play along, and a pipeline of so-called industry plants ready to replace them the moment someone falls out of favor. The only question left is how many more artists have to get broken before people stop pretending the system is just failing and start questioning whether it is actually working exactly as it was designed.